You have to be a little off to play football, but even in a sea of genetic and mental anomalies, some players stand out. An even sharper needle in a stack of needles? These are, without a doubt, the weirdest players in NFL history, and that's coming up right after this. Yo, I have never been more giddy about a product in my life than this one right here. As someone who gave up on his hair a long time ago, let me tell you, shaving my head is not fun, and it's often painful and requires a lot of effort. Well, look at this thing right here, the Dome Shaver Pro from Manscaped. I literally cannot contain my excitement. So rather than just show you close-up shots, I'm going to show you the real-life application of this thing on me, bald guy. Currently, I look like I have about 3 days of head stubble. My beard looks terrible. I look like a complete bum. Phase 1, the Dome Shaver Pro has 5 premium rotary blades designed to give me the closest, cleanest shave possible. And it has skin-safe technology to help prevent nicks and cuts. Look. This thing is also waterproof, so you can take it in the shower too. Now, I use my beard trimmer and my face is finally in order, but look at how clean my dome is. The Flex Adjust technology gave me the closest shave possible. Now, all that's left to do is slap on the Dome Soother aftershave that has aloe, gotu kola, and colloidal oats to calm my head down, and now we're done. So if you're a bald king like me, this has been invented just for us. Head on over to manscaped.com/5-points and get your Dome Shaver Pro and Dome Soother for 20% off and free shipping. Again, that's manscaped.com/5-points for 20% off and free shipping. Legit, this is a product I use and endorse. Get yours today. Ted Hendricks was a walking contradiction, a man who embodied both brilliance and eccentricity in equal measure. Former teammate Ken Stabler once said about him that most Raiders love to party, but Ted Hendricks was a party all by himself. Coming from Stabler, a man who famously claimed to study his playbook by the light of a jukebox, this was no small compliment. It was a fitting testament to Hendricks' larger-than-life personality, one that could easily earn him a spot in the Party Hall of Fame, right behind Charlie Sheen. But the wild antics hid a sharp mind. Hendricks was a physics major at the University of Miami, a student who found relaxation in solving complex math problems. The juxtaposition of his intellectual pursuit with his outrageous behavior painted a picture of a man who walked the line between reality and illusion. On Hendricks' first day of practice with the Oakland Raiders, he arrived wearing a German-style spiked war helmet atop a horse with a traffic cone in hand as a makeshift lance. It was the workings of an insane man, yet it was entirely in character for the man known as the Mad Stork. His flair for the dramatic didn't end there. On Halloween, he once showed up to practice with a pumpkin on his head in place of a helmet. That's pretty funny. And who could forget the famous Monday Night Football shot of Hendricks on the sideline sporting a long, fake plastic nose? Even during Raiders practices, Hendricks couldn't resist putting on a show. He would lift a barbell on the sidelines and the weights were marked 500 pounds on each side. The joke, the weights were hollow. Hendricks actually hated lifting. So wait, Hendricks was just a fitness influencer before his time? Ted Hendricks was not just a football player. He was a sublime, bizarre spectacle, a brilliant mind wrapped in a persona of pure, unfiltered tomfoolery. Oh yeah, and he was a pretty damn good football player. 8 Pro Bowls, 4 Super Bowl victories, and a gold jacket after 15 long, strange seasons in the NFL. Charles Haley. Weird might be an understatement when you're talking about Charles Haley. If you're not too aware of what he was like off the field, you might as well at least know on the field that he was one of the most decorated defensive players of all time, winning 5 Super Bowls with the Niners and the Cowboys, making 5 Pro Bowls and notching over 100 sacks in his career. And speaking of sacks, he loved to show off his own. Haley would routinely walk around the locker room naked with an ace bandage wrapped around his gigantic hog, saying things like, I'm the last naked warrior. I mean, that's called Tuesday in my house. Haley would also take the opportunity during team meetings to beat his meat, often while graphically discussing other players' wives. He would show off his Jimmy Johnson at just about every opportunity, often giving it the old swim move in front of his peers. Can I say this with a straight face? Do you know how good you have to be at football for people to just kind of ignore the fact that you're constantly whacking it in the office? The list basically starts and ends with Haley and Louis C.K. Eventually, the act wore thin for the Niners as they got so tired of the constant exhibition that they shipped him to the rival Cowboys after he threw used toilet paper at his linebackers coach. And you can fill in the gaps as to what I mean by used. That poop paper, in a way, launched the Cowboys dynasty in the early 90s, with Haley playing a massive role in their Super Bowl wins despite still showing off his massive pole. Of course, none of this is the work of a man with a firm grasp on reality. After his career, Haley was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and changed his life when he started going to therapy and taking medication. Good for him, but it's more impressive that he cobbled together a Hall of Fame career in the NFL while simultaneously pulling a Deshaun Watson on a group of professional athletes. Before we get to our last weirdo, quick honorable mention to Clinton Portis, whose many characters kept things interesting in post-game interviews and probably helped people forget he was traded for Champ Bailey. Tim Rosevich. Tim Rosevich was a man of extremes, a fierce linebacker with a wild streak that made him one of the NFL's most idiosyncratic characters. His on-field persona could be summed up in his favorite taunt to opponents. "I love you, man, but I'm gonna wipe you out." This encapsulated the duality of Rosevich, an athlete with the heart of a flower child and the unpredictability of a true eccentric. He was the 14th overall pick in 1968, a Pro Bowler and a national champion at USC. His antics off the field, though, were the stuff of legend. NFL Films president Steve Sable, a close friend and former teammate, vividly recalls the night Rosevich showed up at a party wearing not just clothes, but also flames. Sable and a friend, in a panic, tackled him to the ground and then smothered the fire. Rosevich simply stood up, brushed himself off, and with perfect nonchalance said, "Sorry, I must have the wrong apartment," before strolling out the door. Did I just read that out loud? What the fuck is going on? Setting himself on fire became something of a trademark for Rosevich. He once even set his afro ablaze for a Sports Illustrated cover shoot, an act that only solidified his reputation as a truly insane individual. But Rosevich's oddities weren't limited to fire. His driving habits were equally reckless. He famously drove his motorcycle off a pier and once drove his friends to a bar, opting to stop not by using the brakes but by crashing directly into the wall. His diet was another testament to his unique approach to life. Sable once complimented, "I don't want to say he was out of condition, but he never ate right." That was an understatement. Rosevich's menu at various times included insects, cigarettes, pages from his playbook, and even glass. This dude gave Ozzy Osbourne a run for his money. He had a habit of opening beer bottles by biting off the tops, a practice that seemed both dangerous and entirely in character. Despite his bizarre diet, Rosevich not only survived but thrived in the NFL, a testament to his unconventional methods of quote-unquote preparation. He carried a compass to ensure he slept with his head pointed north, convinced that the Earth's magnetic waves would rejuvenate him, a belief as unorthodox as the man himself, or as we call it in daily life, astrology. The stories about Rosevich are endless and often hard to believe, but they're all part of his legend. But one particularly wild tale from his college days stands out. Rosevich and his friends, always up for a challenge, made a bet to see who could swing closest to a bank of rocks on a rope swing. Rosevich, never one to back down, launched himself onto the rocks, escaping with just cuts and bruises. But those cuts became infected after he took a dip in a fish pond at a frat party, leading to a hospital stay and a coma. When he woke up, doctors ordered him to stay away from football for 8 weeks. Rosevich, thinking this was an overreaction, tried to prove his readiness by repeatedly banging his head against a locker. Despite his efforts, the coaches sided with the doctors and kept him off the field. Good move. After his football career, Rosevich transitioned to acting, making appearances in numerous classic 80s TV shows like Magnum P.I. and MacGyver. He truly was a gifted thespian and a gigantic weirdo in every sense of the word. Well, there you have it. If you made it this far, please subscribe. I make NFL videos. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video. This one was wild, dude. I'm like, my mind is blown away. That was some wild shit. Holy fuck.